Hello, this is Greg Allison of Green Greg's coming to you on the 23rd of July 2020. Man, do we live in interesting times. They're coming aplenty. So I'm going to talk to you today about Thucydides' trap and what that means for the prospects of conflict between the United States and China, or the United States and Chinese surrogates, if you will. So I'm going to talk about China with a little twist of North Korea thrown in. But I'm doing this as a preliminary preview for kind of a warm-up for an interview I'm doing tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm having an interview with Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. Dr. Peter Pry is the Executive Director of the EMP Task Force on National and Homeland Security. And he wrote a report on the 10th of June of this year on EMP threat, China EMP threats, what he named the report. And several articles have been out in the newspapers and news services and on YouTube. A lot of videos that have been covering this. Well, I'm going to bring you the man, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, tomorrow. So you're going to get to see him and what he has to say about it himself. And that will be one of our most interesting interviews on this channel, because I consider him the dean of electromagnetic pulse and the threats that we face in that area. He's also the Dean of Power Grid Defense. Now, there's a lot of people involved in this effort, including illustrious individuals such as Ambassador Hank Cooper, and we have a lot of other good people involved in this effort. He's Peter Vincent Pry. Dr. Pry has been really out there in the forefront of this effort, so that's what I'm giving him credit for. And he wrote this report, and it's really generated a lot of news media buzz. Well, I'm having him on my channel because I know him. I've had him at two of my Power Grid Defense conferences, and I had him come with me and Dr. Stephen Smith to testify in Montgomery, Alabama, on the threat here locally and what we can do. So, my friends, this is not to scare you. This is not fear porn. This is let's get it fixed and what we need to do for it. But sometimes you got to recognize the threat to stand up and do something. Now, we've been talking about this threat for some years, but nobody's done anything about it. Hopefully we can still get it done and have time to do it before anything happens. But we're potentially running out of time. The best way to avert a threat is to make it not attractive to your adversary. Suddenly, if it's no longer a viable option to them, that changes the game. So let's change the game. That's what this is all about. So, before I get into Thucydides' trap and the prospects for why this may be real, I want to say I've got a lot of videos coming up. I teach you how to take care of yourself, because the proposition of this channel is to thrive, survive, and stay out of the hive, so that you'll know what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family. I teach you such things as how to eat from the wilds, from the trees and the weeds. And I got some more videos. I've already filmed one, and we'll do some more real soon, such as I've got a video I just got edited on plantain. Plantain is really interesting because it's been used to treat spider bites and snake bites. Did you know that? So that's coming up real soon. Sometimes it takes me a while to get all my videos edited, and a lot of times by the time I can get around to edit them, they're really kind of too late to put out, like planting tomatoes. Yeah, 2 years I've done videos on that, and I've been too late to get them out. All right, but I do have a lot of stuff coming out. EMP is going to be a major area I'm going to be covering. Get our power grid hardened will be a major area that I'm going to cover. I've been covering it, and I'm going to double up on that because of what the prospects are, what's coming at us. The power grid is our Achilles heel. That is our weak point. We are technological civilization. We require electricity to pump water, to pump fuel, and everything that's moving, our money exists electronically. We have to have electricity in our society to exist as we do. And our society is not prepared to go back to the 1800s. I can go into that more in detail in the future, but we've also got to worry about nuclear power plants and other things. A lot of people, especially the spent fuel rod pulse, more than plants, far more than the plants. So a lot of people think, oh, let's just shut it all down to being people on the internet and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, it's not just going to be going back to the 1800s, my friends. It's going to be far more severe. All right, all that said, let's talk about, oh yeah, before we get into that, Well, friends, you do need to prepare. Now, the most important thing is to grow your own food. It is still planting season. So you go to True Leaf Market and you can get heirloom seeds, the kind you can save and replant and grow again. I have a link to that below. Like I said, of course you need to know the wild edibles. I have videos on those. Like I said, subscribe to my channel and bang that notification bell and click all. PrepWithGreg.com. You can get a 1-month food supply with $100 off at PrepWithGreg.com. That's a link to my Patriot Supply. From that link you can go in, just click around in it, and it'll take you into the website for my Patriot Supply. It's not, immediately intuitive to obviously how that works, but it does. So you can get in My Patriot Supply and get all kinds of prepping supplies. If you've not prepped, you need to do it. And if you should have been prepped a long time ago. And now would be a good time to shore up your preps. Some people say there's a second wave of shutdowns, and all this may be a cakewalk compared to loss of the power grid. Loss of the power grid is you don't go to the store anymore at all. Shutdowns don't count because everything is shut down. No choice. Game over. So what you got is all you're going to have at that point in time. What you got and your ability to make and acquire and grow new, to forage and to renew. That's it. That's all you're going to have. And so with that, let's go into Thucydides' trap. What is the Thucydides' trap? Thucydides was the very first historian. Thucydides wrote about the Peloponnesian Wars. He told us about why that war took place. It took place, and he did a lot of analysis on this, because a rising power of Athens threatened an entrenched power of Sparta. And the Spartans feared the rise of Athens. That led to the Peloponnesian Wars, which really wrecked Greek civilization. Not a pretty situation. Now, the dynamics of that war, the causes, what happened, is something that's probably the most common cause of warfare in modern history. I say modern history, in human history. Because we did go back to the Peloponnesian Wars and before. This is a major tension. And one of the primary people identifying this, the person who coined the term Thucydides' trap, was Graham Allison. Now, Graham Allison, he is the Douglas Dillon Professor of Government at the JFK School of Government at Harvard University. Now, that's a mouthful, right? But he's a well-renowned political scientist, one of the top political scientists in the world. And his analysis shown in the last 500 years, there have been 16 instances of the case where you have a rising power threatening to replace a entrenched power. Now, this can be regional, it can be global, but it's where somebody's entrenched and somebody is rising that can replace them. And of these 16 instances in the last 500 years, 12 of them, 75%, resulted in war. We're talking about war between the French and the Habsburgs, the Germans, the English, the French, all these kind of places and wars that you're quite well familiar with. The Ottoman Empire, World War I, World War II. All that said, the 4 instances where it did not occur are special cases. The first one was when Spain was rising to replace Portugal, and that was adjudicated by the Pope. The Pope divided the world in half. So Spain, you get this, and Portugal, you get that, I think. So that kind of sort of solved that problem. And all the rest resulted in war up into the early 20th century, when the United States was rising power, and back in the era of us going in with World War I and World War II. It was, the entrenched power was the United Kingdom, and the United States was the rising power. But in that case, the United States was there saving United Kingdom's rear end, so we weren't about to have a war with each other. We were on the same side. And WW1 and WW2, and it's primarily WW2 that's the case, where we really replaced the United Kingdom as World War II. And we were really in there saving their rear ends. So there was not about to be a war in that case. The third case is the United States and the Soviet Union. In that case, it's really questionable if the Soviet Union was a rising power that could have actually replaced the United States, at least on the economic standpoint, because the Soviet Union had a very small economy, and the Soviet Union was a third world country with a big military. That's what they were. Yeah, and they had sophisticated weapons and a space program. So they did wow us. They did astonish us how such a country that had a backwards economy could accomplish what they did. And I guess it proves resolve. But their economy, being a command economy, top-down driven, just didn't have the dynamics to compete with us on the world stage. And so they really weren't a country that could have replaced us in that specter unless we'd had a conflict. Now, all that said, we did have a Cold War, a very intense, long Cold War with the Soviet Union. And it flashed hot in pockets. You know, we had the Vietnam conflict, we had the Korean conflict, proxy wars, if you will. And there were cases and incidences where soldiers got shot at the different borders and different things happened. There were incidences all along the way. And there were a lot of close calls. There were several times we actually came very close to full-out nuclear war with the Soviet Union. Fortunately, those cases did not happen. So the fourth and final case that Graham Allison cites is the case of the United Kingdom and France being the entrenched power and Germany being the rising power within the European Union. Now, why that didn't rise to the occasion of a war is we're all one big happy family in the European Union. Until just recently, when Boris Johnson led the effort for the UK to leave the European Union, which is still in progress, I suppose. But so that was not about to result in war because they were all closely intertwined there. So those are the special cases in which conflict did not occur, and probably some of the main reasons they didn't, not to mention modern warfare is a lot more horrific. Now, we have a case with China and the United States where China is definitely the rising power. China has rose like a meteor, and the United States is the entrenched power. And China has started waxing quite aggressive of late. Some people would say they've already launched something of an attack. There are those who claim that the recent bug running around was intent. Some say, well, it might not have been intent, but their negligence had the same effect. Well, I don't know. Whatever the case is, as you know, I do and have said that well, I'm not going to talk about that in this video. That's off the topic of this video. Just bear in mind that we're talking about Thucydides trap, and the potential for it to go hot is an existing thing. I did say this, though. I will repeat this. That when that stuff started around, that China might have said, hey, let's batten our hatches down because we're a command country with a top-down control. We can restrict everybody and prevent the spread of this stuff, and it'll rage in the rest of the world because it started here. No one will blame us. And when the rest of the world is suffering, we'll stand up and hit them. I said it's about my first or second video on the topic. I said that. And you really got to wonder. You really got to wonder. They have been accused of taking advantage of the notion that the rest of the world was a little bit on stand down in some of their late aggressiveness that they've been exercising around the world, particularly in South China Sea, in Ladakh, regional Ladakh, the Galwan River Valley between India and China, with respect to Japan and China. China's been very aggressive, quite aggressive, a lot of posturing. So, that said, the prospects for them to do something are existent. The scary thing is that maybe their ascent has stopped, but they may now be switching into a wag the dog situation wherein the leadership, to mollify a discontent population, may distract them with something like a war. They could have advantages if they win the war in gain of territory and glory, and so they may be in a situation. See, the worst thing for a dictator is to lose power. Because a lot of times that means it's, you know, what they have to do to rise to that position is a lot of dirty tricks, and there's a lot of people out there that would take them out should they fall. So typically a dictator like that lives in fear of losing control, and they're driven by controlling power anyway. So if they were to drop from power, they really worry about the consequences themselves personally. And the sociopaths, psychopaths as they quite often are, they're not really worried so much about their countrymen in the world, just about their own power. And therein lies the danger. That's what you have to remember. These aren't normal individuals when you have a dictator running a powerful country. They're not normal. The situation's not normal. Their main goal is to stay in power, to grow power. And when they start losing, they've got a problem. So if they think they're going to lose power by doing nothing, wagging the dog becomes much more probable. Much more probable. So they may take actions, they may do things. And there's also the strike while the iron is hot dynamic of it. Right now they have a lot of industrial capacity. If they start shutting that down or it starts deteriorating, they lose it. While the world is somewhat distracted, as it may be, by the stuff running around, by the shutdowns and lockdowns and quarantines, they might have a little bit of an edge. They do and have long stated that they want to take Taiwan. They want to take Hong Kong, and they've got claims in India, in the Himalayas. They're claiming vast swaths of the South China Sea, including islands that are already in use by other countries, or really close, like the Philippines, Japan. They've been very aggressive. A Chinese destroyer actually rammed and sank the Vietnamese fishing vessel about 3 months ago. So yeah, they are aggressive. And the Indonesians and Malaysians have definitely confronted them on the seas. And yeah, it's aggressive. It's not, you know, in a situation of shooting yet, but there have been fatalities in the case of the recent incident in Galwan Valley. They claim they're standing down and retracting. China claims, but you know, they have been saying those kind of things all along. So, you know, how much do you trust the CCP, the numbers and the claims they make? Good question. I'm not a trusting individual. So therein lies the problem. And that's why I say that this is a prospect of reality, because the Thucydides trap is real. It exists between the United States and China. It also exists between India and China. That one might even be more probable. But that is also problematic from us, given the prospects for a nuclear winter. That is not a, okay, hey, they take care of each other and we're good here. No, we're not good. So in all these cases, you need to prepare. Our best hope would be to take away the incentive to harden our grid so they wouldn't try to take out our Achilles heel, our weakest point. Some would say, oh, they're tracking, you know, we got submarines and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, they already take that into account. Trust me, they're tracking, and they would account for that. Not to mention, they have a whole lot of cities in western China that maybe they just moved their population to, and because all their main cities are downwind from them, so if we hit them, they're upwind. I don't know. So maybe their population is just going to live in these new cities they built out in the western parts of the country. Yeah, that's speculation, but why in the world they built all those cities? Holy smoke, craziness. So, who knows what their strategy is? Maybe that's a plan B or C, but they spent a lot of money building a lot of complete cities that are totally unoccupied. Whole brand new ghost towns, ghost cities. It's mind-boggling that they did that. So therein lies many of the mysteries with China. But it's not just China. North Korea. North Korea just put a notice to the embassy in Moscow, to the Russians, and said that they basically threatened a nuclear attack on the United States. And I will cover that more in the future if anything else comes out on this. But they basically, of course, they've threatened us a lot. But you know, you never know. Kim's the same way. He's a dictator riding on the front of the train, whose biggest concern is loss of power. He too may wake the dog, or he may be used as the dog from China. I would expect a sneak attack, so that one conducted in such a way you would not know who did it. Just like the vision of Stacy Savicki of Sustainable Stewards, we did an interview on my channel where she talked about a vision she had, and it was a remarkable vision and its accuracy for how a surprise attack could be done. It was excellent military analysis for a farm girl who works in a dairy in Wisconsin. Of course, she had it as a vision. That's how it came to her. She didn't even know what an EMP was. That's why it really caught my attention. What, you had this vision at this level of detail? Interesting. That's why I put her on my channel. And besides, you know, I should have her as a guest many times just for talking homesteading. And she's got an excellent channel on homesteading, gardening, all those things. She's a very interesting individual, good person, really good, solid, down-to-the-earth person, her and her whole family. So my hat's off to them. All right, so once again, China's not the only one that can EMP us. So can North Korea. And so could Russia, and potentially even Iran. EMP is the only way to take out our grid, and sooner or later the sun will do it if we don't harden our grid. So there's the reason to really get our grid hardened, is to protect us from the sun. If you do it to the level that you're good from an EMP, you're good from the sun. If you just work on the sun side, you're not covered from EMP. But you can do them both. Why not? Let's get it done. But we've got to shake the tree real hard to make the powers that be wake up to get it done. So that's what I'm hoping for. I know it's getting dark, but this is our prequel to the interview tomorrow with Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. I really want everybody to watch that video and share it as much as you can. Dr. Peter Pry is a real champion, a patriot trying to save our country. And he's been working real hard to get the grid hardened. So this isn't just to scare everybody. This is to get action to save this country, so that you can survive and thrive. And hopefully you'll stay out of the hive too. But all this comes to you in my eyes wide open and head on the swivel series, because that's what you need to have, and that's what I'm doing for you here, is to get your eyes open, help you have your head on the swivel, so you know what may come. And these are reasons to prepare. So you might listen to keep an ear out for what might come when it might come. And it seems that I'm one of the first people out here on YouTube quite often reporting some of these things, like what's going on in the Galwin Valley and things like that. Now there's a lot of reports on that now. I was an early reporter on the pandemic. I was already reporter on quite a few things. Remember when I said prep now? You know, I've been quite prophetic about a lot of things. Here's what I would hope. I would hope, and we need to pray and meditate to get the world in a better place too. We need to prepare individually, and we need to take actions to get our grid hardened. If we harden our grid, we take the candy away, so that the baby snatcher, candy snatcher from babies, you know, whatever, not taking candy from a baby, taking our grid. We take that temptation away. But I think we also need to make a treaty with Moscow, with Russia. Because even though Russia is in bed with China right now, they fear China more than anybody in the long run. I mean, we have forced them in bed together. We've done that. But in the long run, Russia has to know they'll lose Siberia to China if nothing changes. That has to be one of their greatest concerns. And the Chinese just might keep coming. Once they take Siberia, they may come and take the rest. And Moscow would be, at that point, hard-pressed to do anything about it, especially if Siberia was already lost. And they'll probably just do that through people moving in. So Moscow has a lot at stake there. We could possibly win them over, switch them over. I think the main reason they're our enemy now is because they used to be our enemy. They're not the same country. They don't have the same economy. No, they're not perfect, but who is? There's good people in Moscow. There's good people in Russia. There's good people in China. I have nothing against the Chinese people. This is nothing against the Chinese. We're talking about the ambitions of the parties that control the people, the political parties, the powers that be, and the political rulers who rule in tyranny. They're there doing what they do, and it doesn't really serve the people. It serves them. The people would be better off with liberty. these countries could accomplish so much. Other people in North Korea, there's good people in North Korea. They've been fed a lot of stuff from their political ruling powers. There's some that see through it and know better. Maybe most of it, we don't know. But, you know, they have been fed this, and they've been fed a fear of the United States for decades now. But there's good people there. Hopefully, maybe one day we can have peace, and North Korea will be as prosperous as South Korea. Look what South Korea has accomplished. The North Koreans could do the same thing. The South Korean country is an amazing country, as could be North Korea, as could be mainland China. All these people have great hope for the future if they can shed the yoke of those that keep the jackboot on their neck. So there's our hope, my friends. Again, watch my video tomorrow, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, and thank you for watching today.